Where to start, where to begin? Last night we lost an amazing individual, David Bowie, a very creative individual who shaped the music industry and brought in a sense of creativity we have not seen in a very long time. Um, at this point in time, I really didn't want to do a video, especially considering the circumstances of the events from Sunday, but I figured this is the perfect time to address why creativity itself is dead. David Bowie was a industry leader in the music world because he constantly reinvented himself to appeal to different generations, everything from being an actor to going from pop to rock to metal. I mean, he's done a lot in his career while he's still alive on this planet. We can't take that away from him, obviously, but what we can do is criticize the current state of music and gaming. Both are equally guilty of creating a cookie cutter type blend reality for the rest of us. David Bowie, as I said, was one example that was not part of the normal process of what you would call the normality of music by any means. So it's kind of disappointing on a day like today that we have to actually use him in this discussion to bring home a valid point. So to talk from the music side, then we'll get to the gaming side next, is that as far as music goes, I've been a musician since 1992, which is a while, not as long as my dad or people have been in the industry a lot longer than I was. I only was in the music industry long enough to get a taste of it, realized it wasn't for me and left. But in reality, I see so many bands that hit the ground running as of recent and probably since I'd say mid 2000 that they all kind of blend the same, sound the same, act the same, look the same, trying to sell another gimmick, another shock rock type scenario, and it just gets appalling after a while. And that's why I think David Bowie be missed, because he tried to give us a different perspective on music, and he constantly was reinventing himself. Most musicians can't get out of the mold they're stuck in. Metallica tried, failed miserably. Black may be the biggest selling album they ever produced, but if you look at the figures, it's been downhill since. If bands took more of a creative logic to their music, um, we'd see a lot different sounds, styles that actually blended well and didn't sound hideous together. There's few examples of bands out there that really push creativity beyond just what you see on the videos or beyond what you see in general from the way they present themselves in the society as far as their shows. It's just a shame that every example of creativity just goes out the door as soon as someone like a legacy such as David Bowie dies. From the standpoint of gaming, creativity is non-existent. There's few examples every 5, 7 years that really change the way we think of gaming, whether it's a first-person shooter, an MMO, ironically, and it just seems that it's all cookie cutter. The next generation systems already showed us that the industry, as far as creativity, they just keep beating the same dead horse. I mean, no matter how many times I play Devil May Cry, I see it in so many different games I've played, and it's like, come on, let's get creative. Let's try not to make every game look the same, and we're just changing up the skins or the environments to appeal to a different fan base or a generation to sell something that obviously was great then. By today's standards, Devil May Cry is still a good game, but the rehashes we've seen of the Devil May Cry franchise, uh, games that play and feel exactly like it with different skins, like that's not creative. That's just ripping someone else's idea. When was the last time that the industry basically looked at what was out there and said, why don't we try to do something different? Guitar Hero was different. It was successful for a long time. I don't plan on getting the new one because to me, the passion for that game died as soon as Rocksmith and Banfuse hit the market. That's an example of trying to break outside the mold of traditional things that are out there in the market. But look how well they succeeded. They didn't do too well because the gamers wanted a game and the musicians were happy with it, but they just didn't like the soundtracks that were part of, or the music tracks that were part of the game. It's sad, but it's just the reality of how it is. So, how can we look at creativity from a different standpoint? How can we take the ideas of past to basically build us forward from here? I think from the music standpoint, I think that there's only one way to describe it. I mean, we got to break the cycle. We got to break the mold of, a band that sounds exactly like another band that came out in 2000, but we just rehashed the way they look and how they act, and we call it a new band. And it's getting depressing because now the only way you could reinvent yourself is basically going the route of Fall Out Boy, starting out kind of punky, poppy, and then going the route of dance. I don't even know what you'd call that now, but it definitely is not the Fall Out Boy I remember growing up in the early 2000s with music. But same could go for games. I mean, over time, Mortal Kombat, is a good example. They've had a lot of failures, but they've had a couple of success stories. But the point where it gets to where it becomes a repetitive cycle, it defeats the purpose of why you're playing in the first place. Games really need to challenge the way we think and feel, and push it in a direction that's more reluctant for someone to buy the product, instead of just basically pushing out DLCs and pushing out updates to fix broken things. Let's get back on our creative horse and let's create something amazing, whether it's music, whether it's games, but enough of this cookie cutter crap. We need to move forward. That's my video for the day.